Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by ExpressVPN. You can get 3 months for free at expressvpn.com/inside.
Hey everyone, welcome to Inside Gaming Daily for Monday!
That's right, it's Monday. You gotta clap a little bit. Monday, come on. Last week, BBC found some traction reporting on some kids who spent 550 British pounds, close to $700, buying player packs in FIFA, completely clearing out one of their parents' bank accounts.
Yeah, this week, the good old BBC is back at it again with tales of woe all across merry old England.
All right, prepare your tea, Lawrence, 'cause it's gonna be a bumpy ride.
Ready. One 22-year-old spent 3,160 British pounds, close to $4,000 on one game called Hidden Artifacts. Basically involves clicking around an iPad screen to find hidden items and match them to the descriptions. It's a bizarrely common genre these days, the hidden item games.
Yeah, Nancy Drew did that years ago.
But naturally, the publisher, Blas Works Limited, found a way to monetize the hell out of that somehow. The 22-year-old has spent his entire life savings on goddamn microtransactions.
Holy shit.
Also, it should be noted that his mother said he has cerebral palsy, complex epilepsy, autism, learning difficulties, and the approximate cognitive ability of a 7-year-old child.
Oh, okay.
So, this guy. And yeah, even after reaching out to iTunes and Blas Works, they haven't been able to get a refund.
Yeah, actually, Blas Works never even responded to their phone calls or emails at all, and they missed the 14-day period where you can cancel an order via Apple directly, or at least that's how it works in the EU.
This one's particularly brutal because it is the guy's entire life savings. He doesn't have the cognitive ability to quite understand what he's done, and because it's a game that's supposed to be educational.
Yeah.
But hey, that's not all, right, Lawrence?
It keeps going and gets worse. Essentially, they just got a lot of stories, and here they are. A 16-year-old in Scotland spent 2,000 British pounds, $2,500 in one of EA's NBA games, but the family didn't mention which one. A 12-year-old in West Sussex spent 700 British pounds, or $875 US on Clash of Clans, and his family said he never made the connection what he was spending with real money.
That makes sense to me.
That's the point.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
It's the old Carnival Math of you gotta exchange your money for tickets and then tickets for hot dogs.
That's right.
And then you never really know how much you're spending. Another person's son, who suffers from autism, said they thought the money they spent on a game called Mini Golf King was all pretend coins.
Yep.
Basically, there is a pattern here. There are a lot of kids that don't understand they're spending real, actual money.
Our very own Alana Pierce said she did the exact same thing when she was 12. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, you can go over there.
Oh, I'm by myself. I feel like I'm being exposed. Yeah, so I was like 12 and I was playing a game called Habbo Hotel where there are microtransactions for you to buy cool stuff to put in your apartment. And all that you had to do to get money in the game, I don't remember what it's called, Habbo coins or something, was call a phone number and then put in a personalized code. So I was doing that repeatedly when I was 12. I think I spent like $200, but never made the connection that what I was doing would cost anything. They were just charging it to my phone bill.
No!
So, spent a bunch of money. My parents were like, what the hell is this? And I was like, I don't know. Why would I spend money on anything? Because I just thought I was calling a number and putting a code in, and then I got cool furniture in my Habbo Hotel apartment.
It's kind of like the sex line when I was a kid.
Well.
Thanks a lot.
Alana, your hair's kind of crazy. Is that?
Naturally, people are pretty quick to blame the publishers and developers with some valid complaints about how long Apple takes to inform you after you've made a purchase.
Yeah, the App Store and the iTunes Store generally won't even bill you until a few days after you've bought something, which is very intentional.
The iTunes logic is that if you're going to buy one small thing once, you're likely to do it again soon. And if they can group those charges together, it'll be cheaper for them and more efficient on their end.
But there's also the psychological side of it. Wired says that by charging you a few days after you make a purchase, the act of buying something and paying for it gets separated in your mind. And you can kind of accidentally trick yourself into thinking the things that you're buying are free because the consequences are not immediate.
Yeah, plus people with addictive personalities or kids with learning disorders just seem to be powerless to the system, and there are loads of Reddit users sharing personal stories along those lines. Lawrence, why don't you give us a few?
Reddit user Bring the Depression, which, great username, said, quote, I spent $300 in one day on FIFA 17 buying packs trying to get the best players. Definitely similar to gambling. Doesn't help that I'm a compulsive gambler.
I mean, the first step is admitting it.
That's true.
I think it's pretty astounding when somebody who even knows that they're prone to these sorts of things also gets sucked into them. It speaks to their power and also the intense similarity to actual gambling. Somebody with a gambling disorder can look up and see that $300 is gone and they don't know what's going on. So big yikes on that one. That's a harsh yikes. There's been plenty of conversations along lines of like, why aren't you just watching your kids better? Reddit is filled with people who don't have children that can't wait to dive in there and tell people how to do it. I don't either, so I'm not the one to point fingers there. But the biggest rebuttal to that is in a lot of cases, parents are actually in the same room or even right next to their children while these purchases are being made.
And it's you can't tell sometimes if you're tapping on things, it's like coins will pop up or whatever, like in the Harry Potter game that I'm playing, but those aren't real coins. But they do equal real dollars if you buy them, so.
That's part of the trick too. Each game has its own economy, its own microsystem that they make to try to obfuscate spending actual money as much as possible and making it feel as normal as possible. That's why every tutorial has you use a boost and go into the store and buy some
The fact is, they're just so easy to do and can be done so quickly that unless you're watching your child every time they're behind a screen, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah, so is there any actual solution, Lawrence?
Better regulation? We'd like to think the industry could do it itself, but we'll see. Reddit user Russell Coward, a self-proclaimed ex-programmer in the gambling industry, said, quote, "The gambling industry has vigorous regulations in place to prevent this kind of thing. We were constantly audited, both our math and code, to ensure the house edge was fair. We had to display gambling addiction information on our website and in our games. On top of this, we had to implement fraud prevention to ensure that people had not been using stolen credit cards to play. These game companies seem to be getting away with anything. Solution, each games company using loot boxes should be audited by a third party that has been approved by the European Gambling Commission."
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Until it gets in the real world and it gets messy and who knows what could happen. But the interesting thing is all of these tales of woe are not in a vacuum. This has been part of a narrative that's been building over the last year plus. Recent events have showed a ton of negative sentiment turning against our favorite little gambling simulators.
You mean loot boxes?
Yes.
In early 2018, both the Netherlands and Belgium determined that some loot boxes actually do constitute gambling, meaning their unregulated presence in video games is actually straight up illegal, yo.
So what happened there? Surely game developers just removed monetization, right?
Sort of.
Okay.
For the games that could allow it, just a few months later in July 2018, Valve patched out the ability to open loot boxes in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. It's just gone. Similarly, Electronic Arts shut off the ability to buy FIFA points in the game as of January 31st, 2019. So yeah, some games you can just shut down the monetization part and leave the game running, but you have to wonder whose interest is it then to keep it running? It's going to cost something.
Yeah.
If developers aren't making any money.
Nobody's.
Yeah.
It's the answer to that.
Someone's yelling up and down the hallways of that company, shut it down.
Yeah.
Other companies were a little less resilient to the changing landscape.
Yeah, in May 2019, Nintendo announced that they would discontinue Animal Crossing Pocket, Camp and Fire, Emblem Heroes in Belgium due to the current unclear situation in Belgium regarding certain in-game revenue models.
They just pulled the game completely.
Yeah.
Because why even operate a game if you can't shake kids down for money with it?
The ripple effects are interesting to notice because it seems like most territories are headed for some kind of confrontation with loot boxes.
Yeah, even the most free country on the planet, Freedom, seems to have lost its appetite for those pesky, predatory little monetization boxes.
Yeah, on May 21st, 2019, Missouri Senator Josh Hawley introduced the Abusive Games Act to the US Senate, which seeks to make it unlawful to publish and unlawful to distribute games with loot box or aggressive monetization mechanics in games that are designed to target minors.
Granted, that begs a lot of questions like what?
Well, how do you determine if a game's targeting minors or not?
Yeah.
Where exactly do you draw the line between normal DLC and predatory microtransactions? A lot of fuzz in there. And actually, Holly's election office was kind enough to send out an FAQ about it to kind of help define those things, but it didn't really. So there's a lot of fuzz in the middle about where you have to lock all that stuff down. Questions like those are exactly why most would prefer the industry to regulate itself.
Sure.
Instead of, brainwashing kids to drain their parents' bank accounts. But instead we'll get senators drafting up the legal definition of what a loot box really is, probably while being taken out to a few strip clubs and doing a few loot box sponsored lines of coke in the bathroom.
Whoa, like EA, you think?
I hope so.
Is there a video game lobby?
Yeah.
Oh, dear
It's called
God.
the ESA.
What a fun job that might be. These are the same senators that will have to agree that loot boxes are gambling and which loot boxes are gambling. And there's a hell of a lot of money and cocaine being thrown around to try to prevent that train of thought.
Mobile game developers can afford the good stuff too. Microtransaction and loot box mechanics make a ton of money.
Yeah.
We're talking in the billions. So much that companies depend on them as a significant source of revenue.
According to a recent quarterly earnings report from Electronic Arts, FIFA Ultimate Team accounted for half of all the company's live service revenues.
She's at $480 million for the quarter. That means FIFA Ultimate Team alone brought in $240 million in just 3 months, just about 20% of the company's entire revenue.
But that's not it, right, Lawrence?
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If you think companies will just shed a tear and be like, as 20% of their revenue evaporates, that's not gonna happen. Also, we have some investments to talk to you about. But Nintendo's even struggled with loot boxes. The company's on record saying they don't even like the damn thing, telling the Nikkei Asian Review that, quote, "We honestly prefer the Super Mario Run model of charging a flat fee for a game as opposed to having it being an ongoing service with monetization hooks. However, money talks, can't really argue with the results there. We just reported on this a few days ago. Super Mario Run only grossed $2.3 million in Q1 2019 compared to $46 million for the gacha-heavy Fire Emblem Heroes or $75 million for the equally monetized Regalia Lost."
Oh my God, so 2 million or 75 million? Which one do you want?
When you're a company, you gotta answer to your investors and your employees. It's hard to say no to that kind of money when it's on the table and ready to be taken until it maybe becomes illegal at some point. So we'll see. Yeah, there's too much money behind these mechanics for them to disappear for good, basically, despite the attempts of the Netherlands and Belgium to push them back a little bit. Sensor Tower, a website dedicated to the economy of apps, reported back in January that worldwide app revenue grew 22.7% in 2018 alone, getting the industry's annual revenue up to $71.3 billion.
Oh my God.
God, it's so much. So mobile gaming makes up 45% of the global games market and is expected to be making $95.4 billion annually by 2022. It's a lot of money. It's too much to even think about, really.
And that's why we're here, basically, to try and break off a piece of that microtransaction pie before the entire ship ship sinks. We gotta pay off some stuff.
You hear us, EA? We're full on chill. Send us that money.
Do anything. What do you want? Where do you want us?
We just need to do a little astroturfing, that's all. Maybe come out with some human interest stories on the other side of the issue so that microtransactions don't seem so bad.
Oh, that's it.
Like when I bought all those coins in Harry Potter and I loved
And
it.
it made you so happy.
I was happy forever.
Sure, some disabled kid in England got suckered out of 3,000 pounds, but won't someone think of Zynga CEO Frank Gidru?
Who doesn't matter? The poor man runs the company that gave us Farm Bill. He only gets paid $9.9 million a year.
Think of the rich.
Imagine being so close to $10 million, only to be laughed out of the Scotch room at your weekly millionaires party, Lawrence.
We feel,
How
right?
would that feel?
Disgraceful.
And then you remember that you fired your assistant that morning for making more than 2 seconds of direct eye contact
Yeah.
with you? That, and I was gonna drive my car around.
Now, who will handle all those college bribes so your idiot daughter can get a fake education they deserve?
Yeah, Mr. Sempervivo, what happened to that? Or how about that sad tale of King CEO Ricardo Zacconi?
All those happy nights playing Candy Crush that he gave the world. He gave us that. He's out on the street begging for change just to make ends meet after getting paid $19.8 million a year.
Oh my gosh, it's so sad.
There's no room for anything in that budget. You gotta so raise
You
your
can't even buy El Pollo Loco with that.
There's no justice in this world. There, we did it. Buy loot boxes, everyone. Get them now. Just sit back and wait for the lobbyists to just give us a call, take us out for a couple dinners.
Yeah.
We're on your side now, please.
yeah.
Give us some of that money.
Because this show ain't paying nothing.
Bring the cocaine.
Please tell me we're sponsored.
This one is sponsored. Oh, thank God. Today's episode of Inside Gaming Daily is brought to you by ExpressVPN, because let me tell you, when you're deep in the throes, when you've got that itch bad, when you're hooked on those microtransactions and you gotta buy your loot boxes when you're at the Starbucks, when you're at the airport, when you're on that public Wi-Fi, you're gonna wanna make sure ExpressVPN is guarding your data, because you're the only person that can drain your bank account, right? No other person's gonna get in there, steal your credit card, and buy all those loot boxes for themselves. No, those are all yours. That's your life savings that you built up. Spend it on FIFA Ultimate Packs the way you need to with ExpressVPN. So, what is a VPN, right? Essentially, you connect to a server that then connects you to the internet. Except all your traffic between you and that server is encrypted, meaning even if you're on a public Wi-Fi and somebody's snooping in on your data, they won't be able to figure it out because you're locked down. You're safe. You put a padlock on your internet, which means all of those loot boxes are yours, all those rare pops. Those are all going right to you. ExpressVPN has the fastest speeds, server locations in 94 countries, and apps for every device: Windows, iOS, Android, Mac, Linux, router, and more. You can even get it for your router, just for your router. So we also have a special offer for you guys. You can get up to 3 months off by going to expressvpn.com/inside. Take back your privacy with ExpressVPN and keep all of your loot boxes that you rightfully earned. That's expressvpn.com/inside. Thank you for the sponsorship, ExpressVPN. Candy Crush for the longest time was like, how far can I get without paying a single cent?
We're almost to level 1,000.
Oh, God, there's that.
What's after level 1,000?
2,000.
Currently, doctors and assistants cost 4,000 gold coins, because of course there's also another currency. Yeah.
Oh no, doctor, Mario,
We need him.
I give you $5.